Have a good Friday morning, Detroit. It's 7:02, and this is the Nolan Finley Show. Nolan Finley and Kelly Cobb not here today, but joining you, Don Tanner and...
This is Matt Friedman. This is Matt Friedman, both from Tanner Friedman. A couple of radio guys who grew up to be PR guys. Very happy to be back on the radio this morning.
This is going to be fun. We're going to spend the next couple hours with you talking about a number of issues. We're going to start with politics here in a minute, get into some real estate, residential real estate, some baseball, and what else are we talking about this morning?
We have varied interests. We have a varied business, and we're going to give a sampling of that to the 910 Superstation audience this morning. This is a kick for me. As a kid growing up, a little kid, I went to nursery school in Oak Park, and we used to pass this complex, and I'd see the big antenna from WXYZ TV and WXYZ radio, which some people are old enough to remember. And I thought, how cool would it be to be talking and have my voice coming out of the antenna at 10 Mile in the Lodge? And here we are.
Yeah, well, it's great. And I grew up a radio geek playing radio station in my room with turntables and tape recorders and things. So anyway, it's we appreciate the opportunity to talk to you this morning. And we were joined by our first guest, in fact, Matt.
Yeah, Tanner Friedman, we try to keep up with politics just like the 910 AM Superstation audience does, and we listen to the Nolan Finley Show to know what's going on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely.
But sometimes we really need to get behind the scenes, and we depend on the folks at Clark Hill to do that. One of them from Lansing is here with us today, Del Chenault, Director of Governmental Affairs. Del, thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You take your clients and those in your network behind the scenes in Lansing and what's going on in politics and state politics and the issues that are going to affect all of us. 2018, here we are. It's an election year, and we hear a lot in the news about the congressional midterm elections. A lot of focus on that, particularly as they relate to America's feelings about the president and about Congress. But here in the state of Michigan, it's an election year, too, and one I know you're keeping a close eye on because of how much is up this year statewide. What's the overall landscape like? The news hasn't cut up quite yet with the on-the-ground reality that you see about the election.
That's correct. We kind of refer to this time of year as the silly season, where we have any number of issues, candidates, of course, will be on the ballot. When you look at this current election year, it's probably unlike any we have seen in quite a long time. As we've seen from Washington, D.C., quite a topsy-turvy time, what's happening there with the White House and congressional Republicans. I think this election will be very much a referendum on what we're seeing out of Washington. Mm-hmm. That has a lot of Republicans here in the state of Michigan a little worried. It's a little unpredictable of what will happen in November because November is such a long way off. A lot can happen between now and then. But generally speaking, it appears to be shaping up as a Democrat year. And in Michigan, for the last 4 years, we have had Republican control of every major statewide office. Republicans have controlled both chambers of the legislature and really had their way. Those things could change come November, and it's something that folks are watching very closely.
I'm sorry, John. At the same time, the legislature has a job to do, and they're going to have a budget. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about that because I think it's something that we used to remember. State government shutdowns hasn't happened lately. They have a budget, but are they going to get into full campaign mode, or do you expect legislative action?
When it comes to the budget, I will give this governor credit. When he came in, if you remember back during the previous administration, during the Granholm administration, there was a lot of angst over the budget. There was a very difficult financial years. We went through several years where the budget was delayed all the way up into the last day. In fact, one year we had the budget shut down state government for a number of hours early in the morning. Michigan is their fiscal year goes October 1 through September 30. But when this governor took over, he was elected as one tough nerd, an accountant by trade, and was determined to fix the state's long-term financial health. And one of those ways was to have predictable budgeting. And what they have done over the last 7 years, well, his first 7 budgets really, has had an on-time budget, on-budget budget, balanced budget. And that looks to be, again, the same MO will be this year, on schedule, on budget. The legislature's been working feverishly. The Senate passed their budget bills yesterday out of the chamber, so the budget bills have now swapped chambers. We will see the budget probably head to the governor by the end of the month, or at least the first or second week of June, which will be this governor's eighth and final on-time budget.
You're listening to 910 AM Superstation. We're talking to Del Chenault, who is the Director of Government Affairs at Clark Hill. You can join the conversation at 313-778-7600. Don Tanner and Matt Friedman in guest hosting today for the Nolan Finley Show. Del, what intrigues you most about this election and some of the candidates that are that are there and that are coming to the forefront?
Certainly the unpredictability of this election, I think, is kind of exciting if you're an aficionado and a watcher of elections in the political process. In Michigan, we have two challenged primaries for governor. On the Democrat side, you've got four very strong candidates. On the Republican side, just two strong candidates. Interestingly enough, you have two statewide elected officials of being very competitive in that primary with Lieutenant Governor Calley and Attorney General Bill Schuette. On the Democrat side, you have the former Minority Leader Gretchen Whitmer, Sri Thanadar, who's using a lot of his own money, making that a very competitive primary that most folks didn't expect come this time of year.
It's become very high profile. A lot of ads, a lot of shaking hands and kissing babies.
Yeah, very much so. The last few polls that we have seen have Mr. Thanadar leading Gretchen Whitmer in spite of all of her endorsements by anywhere from 3 to 5 points, so just outside the margin of error. And over on the Republican side, you've had Bill Schuette leading Lieutenant Governor Calley consistently by double digits. The last polling that we saw just about a week or two ago, there was a poll done just prior to the Detroit Chamber Mackinac Conference, had Schuette up on Calley by about 15 points.
Mm-hmm. A lot of this is going to depend on who votes. And it seems that Democrats are counting on younger voters to come out for a few different reasons. One of them might be a recreational marijuana ballot proposal. But we read in the Free Press this morning, Kathy Gray reports that the Republicans in the state House have not given up on the idea of maybe trying to take control of this issue so that it doesn't have to be decided on the ballot. What do you think is going to happen there? It seems like this is something that's come and gone a lot over the last few weeks.
It's a very interesting issue. I think there are multiple angles on this issue. One, of course, is the political angle, and that is when you have a recreational ballot proposal, it's going to drive younger voters. And those younger voters typically tend to vote Democrat. And in an election year where the Republicans are scrapping and fighting for every single vote, it worries them. I mean, that's just reality. But there's a policy side to this as well that I think is kind of being missed in this political debate. And that is the Senate and House Republicans just about a year ago, passed a proposal that was approved on the ballot that would regulate medical marijuana. And they put together a very stringent regulatory structure to ensure that medical marijuana was delivered to those patients that needed it. Mm-hmm. The recreational ballot proposal, as it's worded, would unwind or at least greatly erode that regulatory scheme that they put in place, that the legislature put in place just about a year and a half ago. So there's a part of some of those legislators who would like to see recreational marijuana regulated in a way that's consistent with what they did with medical marijuana. So that's kind of sort of driving behind the scenes as well, is to say, look, if we're going to have marijuana in Michigan, let's make sure it's regulated in a very consistent way. We can't have these two regulatory structures overlapping each other.
So it's not just a political play.
Of course.
There's actually lawmaking that might be a part of it.
Right. I know it's kind of amazing when we're talking about Lansing, but that's exactly what's going on behind the scenes.
Interesting. What else do you think you see behind the scenes in representing a lot of businesses in Lansing that voters, that radio listeners don't always expect? I mean, you're the one talking to legislators every day. They go on the radio and they have to appeal to a broad public. Behind the scenes, what do you see, especially in an election year like this?
Well, having done this for as long as I have, over 20 years, it's amazing to see the behind-the-scenes part of the job where the number of different issues that are handled on a day-to-day basis by the legislature and by the governor is pretty amazing. You can imagine the number of issues that are long-term issues, from financial health. When we went through the Detroit bankruptcy, there was an incredible amount of work and legislative work that went into that. When you look at the reforming Detroit public schools, for instance, incredibly complex piece of legislation that pulled that together. Those are some of the long-term issues, but when you look at what things that happen on a very short-term basis, things that come up that you don't expect, things like the Michigan State sex assault and Nassar issues, the legislature has taken a very active role in reviewing what's happening on all of Michigan's campuses, but especially Michigan State, which has turned into a robust group of bills to sort of get their arms around preventing this in the future. So there's things that they do on a daily basis, including the budget, which they have to do, but there's also legislating on policy issues that are long-term and short-term. I think what we're going to see here in the coming months in Michigan is, what are we going to do about our social safety net? I think welfare reform in some way, shape, or form is probably going to come to light. Maybe work requirements for you're maintaining your Medicaid healthcare benefits. Maybe some reform to Michigan's Healthy Michigan Act, which was our Medicaid expansion. I think that's there's bills that were introduced to require at least a 29-hour work week for folks that are on that social safety net program, and aligning those with the food stamp program. So in order to maintain your food stamps, you might have to also work a minimum number of hours. There's also education reform. How are we going to give the teachers the training that they need to make sure that Michigan kids are prepared as they roll through our K-12 system? This governor's put in place a pre-K program that has the goal is to sort of get kids to the place where by the time they get out of high school, they're well prepared for whatever that's going to be. We've had a policy in this state for a number of years now that every kid needs to go to a 4-year institution. Well, now it's becoming obvious that, not every kid is geared to be a 4-year, college kid. Some kids would like to go into skilled trades. So there's a large focus on on apprenticeships, internships for high school credit. Also, getting kids to get into the skilled trades. Those are a very important part of our economy, especially here in Michigan. We need to have those welders, plumbers, electricians. And there's a number of large employers who've come to the state and come to the legislature who have said, we really need to have skilled workers. What can we do to improve this workforce? And the governor's introduced the Marshall Plan for Talent, which is a very robust program to sort of get our arms around that. When the state and the city of Detroit and the region here put the bid in for the Amazon headquarters for the HQ2, one of the things that came to light was the fact that Michigan has a talent gap. So there's a major focus on how do we improve training people, high-tech talent, not only skilled trades, the hands-on, I call it that, the hands-on, get your hands dirty trades, but how do we get the high-skilled IT workers to come out of high school and be ready to jump into our workforce?
I think people don't realize how much Michigan is hiring, and there are tens of thousands of jobs that need workers. You mentioned Del Chenault with Director of Government Affairs with Clark Hill, a number of issues, short and long-term legislative issues, which begs the question, and something that people bring up all the time, probably this year more so than ever, being an election year, are term limits. Thoughts on term limits? Are they here to stay?
They've certainly been good for your industry.
Yeah, right.
They have been good. Look, it's a mixed bag with term limits, right? Mm-hmm. The original goal of term limits, which is this laudable goal of the citizen legislator, no more career politicians, it leads to bad things inside of the system. It hasn't, in my experience, it's just me talking, if I can kind of sort of put on my public opinion hat for a minute. That hasn't really come to fruition. What it's done is given us a group of legislators who come in. Michigan's a full-time legislature. So they come into Lansing having to get up to speed very, very quickly in very complex issues without a sense of the historical bases for how we got to where we're at. So when we start tackling things like the Detroit bankruptcy, Detroit public schools, long-term financial health for the state's budget. Mm-hmm. It takes a legislator several years to really understand, especially if they're chairing a budget as complex as sort of the Health and Human Services budget. There are multiple local, state, and federal layers to that budget item.
And that's one of the complaints that it takes a while to ramp up to understand, but then it's easy to kick the can down the road.
Of course. So then things become very political. It doesn't, in my humble estimation, in my humble opinion, when you get legislators who are term limited, it doesn't lead to the cooperation that Michigan needs to move itself forward. Things become very partisan. And you've got a legislator who says in the House, I'm only here for 6 years. I don't need to work with you because I just need to make a mark and I'm going to be done. So why do I need to reach across the aisle when I have the majority of my members? And so whoever's in the minority at the time really kind of gets left in the cold sometimes. So it doesn't happen out like that all the time, but it's a very interesting dynamic where in the era of term limits, the power goes to those who've been around. The career legislative staff, the lobbyists, and the legislators are sort of the ones the new guys who come in are sort of the ones who are out in the cold.
We have time, I think, for one more little topic, and that is the governor is talking like he is going to be working at full speed until midnight on New Year's Eve. Yeah, what do you expect from the executive branch?
This has been a very aggressive governor, and when you look at what he's accomplished, and you can agree or disagree with him, but the one thing you have to give him credit for is the incredible amount of issues that he has tackled, long-term issues that a lot of governors kick the can down the road, as you said earlier, who didn't necessarily want to tackle. And so this governor has taken those on. I think, and the governor has said this several times, his vision has been 2038. And he said the greatest time to be governor is going to be 2038 because at that point in time, Michigan will be fully funded with all of its long-term liabilities. All of our financial health should be very stable from a revenue perspective. So he's looked at it very long-term. He says he works in dog years. He's going to be working all the way to the very, very end, all the way to the last day of his administration. Marshall Plan for Talent, getting the budget done. I think he wants to get his arms around our OPEB liabilities and teacher pensions, getting those fully funded. So this is going to be a governor who's not going to quit.
We really appreciate all the insight this morning from Del Chenault, Director of Governmental Affairs at Clark Hill and Lansing. This is the Nolan Finley Show. Matt Friedman and Don Tanner filling in. We're going to come back with a look at how all this division is affecting us psychologically and what we can do about it. This is 910 AM Superstation, the future of radio.
7:20, the time right now. I'm Andre Ash, live from the Superstation Weather and Traffic Center. Currently, we've got mostly cloudy skies. 66 degrees is the current temperature. We'll get a chance of some showers and thunderstorms as we head into the early afternoon hours. And then the sun comes back out with a high today of 67 degrees. Onto the roads right now, we are watching an accident currently affecting the westbound lanes of actually, that's the eastbound lanes of I-94 in Detroit. Right before Connor, there's stop-and-go traffic up to Grasher. You're listening to the Nolan Finley Show on 910 AM Superstation. We're back in a moment.
Are you struggling to keep your water flowing? To learn about lower monthly payments, payment plans, and more, text Get Help to 313131. Apply now. Text Get Help to 313131 or go online right now.
The 910 AM radio app is now available on iTunes, Google Play, and the Amazon App Store. And guess what? It's free. Listen to all of your radio favorites on the go. It's quick, it's easy, and it's brand new just for you. The new 910 AM radio app. Download it today. 910 AM Superstation is the voice of the people. Don't believe me? Just listen.
I absolutely love this radio station. This station gets me through the work week.
And we don't just show love to the callers. We see the comments and the posts too.
I'm always on the go, so being able to watch all my favorite hosts on 910 AM mobile app is amazing.
So when you think of 910 AM Superstation, we want you to tune in, call in, and don't forget to find us on social media.
Breast cancer knows no boundaries, be it age, gender, socioeconomic status, or geographic location. Register for the 27th annual Susan G. Komen Detroit Race for the Cure, Saturday, May 5th at Comerica Park. To register and donate, visit ComenGreaterDetroit.org or call 248-304-2080. There's victory in every step. Join 910 a.m. Superstation as we broadcast live from the Race for the Cure.
910 AM Superstation will be broadcasting live from the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix, presented by Lear, June 1st through 3rd. Come out and join us broadcasting live from the Gold Standard at the Meyer Fan Zone. And be sure to listen to both dual and Detroit IndyCar races live June 2nd and 3rd. Brought to you by the IndyCar Radio Network, only on 910 AM Superstation, the official radio station of Grand Prix. Listen to 910 AM Superstation for a chance to win tickets to the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix, presented by Lear.
Welcome back to the Nolan Finley Show on 910 AM Superstation. Matt Friedman and Don Tanner here this morning from Tanner Friedman, filling in for Nolan and Kelly. We want to let you know that 910 AM Superstation will be broadcasting live from the Chevrolet Grand Prix presented by Lear, June 1st through 3rd. Come out and join the station broadcasting live from the Gold Standard at the Meyer Fan Zone. And be sure to listen to the track results in real time. Brought to you by the IndyCar Network, only on 910 AM Superstation, the official radio station of the Grand Prix. And you can listen to 910 AM Superstation for a chance to win tickets to the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix presented by Lear.
All right. Sounds like a fun time. It's 7:24. It is Friday morning. We made it to the weekend. And Andre Ash is here with us as well.
Good morning.
We want to acknowledge that you're with us as well. And another guest in the studio. Of course, you can always call in and join in the conversation at 313-778-7600. You can also watch us on the live stream at 910 AM Superstation on Facebook. We'll wave at the cameras. And if you're watching, welcome and thanks. We're living in some interesting times right now, and we have a guest that we're so pleased to have with us. We're, in many ways, a country divided. You hear that term quite a bit out there, where differences of opinion are not respected like they should be. We're finding common ground is increasingly more difficult. So the question becomes, can we really get along, and how? So someone that, again, we're pleased to have with us is Dr. Paula Kleiger. She's a clinical psychologist and a business and organizational consultant. Her work specializes in bringing people together. Think of that, including at times of dissent and crisis. She's also the author of a new book that offers some solutions aimed at resolution of some of these issues. Paula, Dr. Kleiger, thank you for being here.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. So why are we, and many people have theories, and maybe we need to mention Donald Trump, but we don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but why are we as a nation so divided right now?
I guess I'd like to approach this from the psychologist standpoint.
Please.
I think that we've been really, really focused a lot on one level, like the political side of things and the social side of things. But I'm a psychologist, and I spend time with people every single day. They come to me when they're really desperately in need of help and so forth. And one of the things that stands out for me is that when people come to see me and they feel this very tension in our social environment, in government, in politics, and all of that, a lot of it has to do with not being able to have a perspective. Mm-hmm. They've lost perspective about their own lives. They feel in crisis for so many different things. And one of the things that I've learned is that if we don't have, if we're not able to recognize that our lives are, if we're not able to really understand more about ourselves in whatever crisis we're engaged in, it's hard for us to get a perspective, and it's hard for us to really solve problems, not just related to ourselves, but to other people.
And so when are you brought in? You basically, your practice is Psych Assets. You're based in Birmingham. You're also in Farmington Hills. But you work with individuals, with couples, and businesses in crisis. When are you typically brought in to work with, say, a business or an organization?
If often it has to do with a crisis or a trauma of some kind. I mean, obviously, all of us know that people are not going to reach out for help unless they really feel they need it. I mean, they're usually feeling like they're on their knees to some extent, and then they will call me. And it could be something that has to do with a business downsizing, or they're expanding, or a company that might be coming together with several different cultures, and they're having a lot of tension, a lot of disagreement, much like that divided idea that you started out with. And they will call me in specifically to help people begin to sit and listen and to understand themselves individually, but then to listen better to each other. As they begin to listen better to each other, then they can begin to find common ground. It really is a two-step process. Unless you get a perspective first about yourself, unless you really can own your own strengths, vulnerabilities, your own weaknesses, it really becomes very difficult to see and understand someone else. And what I find is that people, once they can sit and listen to themselves and then listen to the other person, they open up, they begin to have that perspective, a wider view, and then they can sit and solve a problem.
I find this to be a fascinating conversation. You know, back to when I was in middle school, we had classes on conflict resolution. And I believe that we in society don't take that, as you said, having someone's perspective on other issues or their views. And I think we have to be a bit more open-minded into, like you said, into listening to each other. I think one of the fascinating ideas in our society today is that we tend to follow or listen to people who agree with us. We have social media that plays a role in this as well. Certainly, do you take on issues where people find disagreement or conflicts originating from social media in today's world?
Absolutely. And well, let's stay with that for a moment, because one of the biggest issues that we find, obviously, is that we all want to hang out with like-minded people. And I talk about that in the concept of silos, which I'm sure you've heard a lot about. In fact, one of the exercises that I give to people, to leadership groups, business groups and so forth, or even couples and individuals, is kind of an exercise on defining their silos, the ways in which they may hang out with certain people only and not expose themselves to other experiences or other lifestyles or other people's thinking. And so part of the work that I do to bring people together is to encourage that. That while we do start out with a sense of wanting to feel comfortable in a comfort zone, so to speak, that at some point, if we're really going to understand how to pull us all together and find common ground, we have to explore outward. We have to expose ourselves to different people, different lifestyles, different ways of thinking, and even making our lives work.
Perhaps that's even more relatable as we look at today's headlines and we see a whole lot of talk on the issue of Kanye West and his comments about his comments about we all shouldn't have to think alike. We should expose ourselves to different things, if you will. And he's got a lot of people on one political aisle or one social culture silo, if you will, who disagree with him. And a lot of people are stuck in this conflict right now in our cultural society. And as you talked about, you work to try to bring people together and to really expose and examine each other's perspectives.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I guess it's about mutual respect, right? There's got to be some kind of mutual respect there. People that stop and listen to each other and try to understand each other.
I think also that we're an evolving self. We are, we're not just at one place for our whole lives. And I think that's something we really forget. I think many people who get into this silo state feel that they cannot change. I am who I am. This is my personality, and that's it.
Right.
Okay? So take me or leave me.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that every single day, we are exposed to all sorts of significant life events. They change us. And if we're lucky, we can evolve if we're lucky, we can recognize that evolution is something that we needed to progress ourselves and to do more with our lives. And so I think that's a real key issue, is to tap into our own awareness that we can change. And one of the best places, frankly, we call this blind spots, right? Because we all have blind spots. One of the ways that we can really change most, I think, today is by listening cross-generationally. I'm from the hippie generation.
Okay.
My daughter is a millennial.
Okay.
And I feel that, in fact, I did worked on a major symposium last year that brought together people from various psychoanalysts, psychologists, social work, mental health, brought together people cross-generationally. And that is one of the ways that we really, again, can expose ourselves to more about being human and what that really means, and to open our minds up to a different perspective. I think, for example, it was a very painful experience, certainly for me, to hear a lot about, and that was the school shootings. But I must say that the young people who took a stand about this issue of violence in schools, and I don't want to get necessarily into a gun debate, but I think that the fact that they stood together, irrespective of any political view, but about a human view, the human fact that we are connected to each other, no matter what color we are, background, religious belief, we should stand together as human first, last, and always. And that's a part of the theme of my book.
The Nolan Finley Show on 910 AM Superstation with Matt Friedman, Don Tanner, and Andre Ashen. We're with Dr. Paula Kleiger, one of the top experts in our area in psychology and business psychology. Doctor, you've got a new book out, and I'm asked, even by clients in our business sometimes, the news depresses them, they say. The news stresses them out. Real life, by the way, layered on top of that, doesn't make anything any easier for almost anybody. Sounds like your book could help. It's called Power Your Heart, You Power Your Mind. Why should somebody pick up the book? What would they learn?
Well, first of all, they would really learn that you have, in order to manage those stressors day to day, in order to solve the problems of your life that have to do with finances, family, etc., we have to begin with ourselves. I think it's so simple, it's so obvious, but if we are not engaged in a fair amount of self-development and self-care and wanting to gain self-mastery, we really feel often lost. And so what the book attempts to do, using different modalities, I use artwork to encourage people to go inside themselves, think about who they really are. The first step is for us to focus on our own self-understanding and self-awareness. You know, who are we really? What are our values? What motivates us? What scares us? What brings us to tears? What are those factors that make us resilient, able to weather the most difficult kinds of situations? So the book does that, and it does it in a format, a three-pronged format. It gives us like 5 practices that you can really start working on. One is how to learn to be more present. We call that mindfulness. There's even an approach for mindful leadership as well. And then there's self-awareness as a practice. And then there's an awareness of others and how to recognize our impact on others and the consequences of that impact. And the fourth part of the practice in the book is about being curious, going to that factor of exposing ourselves to new experiences and being open. And finally, the book encourages us to recognize or find our own purpose and direction in life. Because once we can tap into our own calling, so to speak, and this applies, it's not necessarily a spiritual thing, but I think we all have dreams of what we want to become and how we want to contribute. those become the avenues for gaining our own personal recognition, a sense of self-worth, and a desire to move forward in our lives.
It really is a fascinating book. It really is part journal, part art gallery, part workbook.
Yes.
And that whole theory of self-study. We're talking to Dr. Paula Kleiger about her new book, Power Your Heart, You Power Your Mind. And we have Tracy, who has called in. Tracy, good morning. What is on your mind?
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I'm wondering, how much does one's perception about lack of resources, if I feel that one group is going to get more resources or that there are not enough resources for everyone, how that shapes my perception on getting along with others and trying to work together based upon that perception that there's not enough for everyone. And I'll hang up and listen. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
Absolutely. That's such a really good question. There are realities that we walk into every day where we find that there's a hierarchy. There are people who really have the resources available to them and people who do not. One of the things that we believe in our work is that it still begins with you. Even though we recognize that we can be in a situation that can be very difficult, it's important for us to be able to look at our own strengths and identify those internal resources that you have available to yourself, and to begin to identify perhaps in the environment people who can support your meeting your needs. It's not easy necessarily to do that depending on the environment you're in, but you must start with yourself and understanding what your strengths are and to capitalize on those and begin to build from there.
Wonderful. Now, we've only have about 30 seconds. The segment went so fast. And Dr. Paula Kleiger, we appreciate you being here. If someone wants to pick up a copy of your book, what's the best way to do that?
The best way to get it is to go to psychassets.com. That is our website, www.psychassets.com. And I'm looking forward to hearing from people and their comments about the book.
We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, you've given a great different dimension to the discourse and the conversation. We're going to be taking a break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about real estate and a hot market for the summer. The weather's heating up. Real estate is too. RealComp's going to be here to tell you about that. This is the Nolan Finley Show. Matt Friedman, Don Tanner from Tanner Friedman in for Nolan and Kelly this morning. This is 910 AM Superstation, the future of radio.
7:40 the time right now. I'm Andre Ash, live from the Superstation Weather and Traffic Center. Currently at 67 degrees in the city of Detroit. Partly cloudy skies, a chance of rain showers and thunderstorms as we head into the early afternoon. And a high today of 69 degrees with sun coming out for the evening hours. Currently, we're watching an accident along the eastbound lanes of 94 just before you approach Connor Avenue. And now we're back to the Nolan Finley Show right here, right now on the Superstation.
And welcome back, Matt Friedman, along with Don Tanner. We're from Tanner Friedman, filling in for Nolan and Kelly this morning, who are enjoying a Friday morning. Maybe they slept in, away from the radio mics. Anyway, in our next segment here, we're talking about real estate and home prices and home availability and home values here in Metro Detroit. Karen Cage is here from RealComp. Longtime friend of ours, and when we need insight as to what's going on in real estate, we have long counted on Karen and her team at RealComp, and Don can lead us through at least the beginnings of the conference. Don's more of a real estate guy. I handle some other stuff. Don's more of a real estate guy, and he's going to at least get us started on the conversation this morning. I haven't bought a house in a long time.
Just bought a house back in December. First time in a long time for me, too. But, I guess judging by the weather and more for sale signs out there, spring has sprung. And Karen Cage is the CEO of RealComp, the Realtor MLS, multiple listing service. Always has her pulse on all things residential real estate, as does her organization. You typically see their reports every month. on what's going on in real estate. Karen, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here and getting up early. I know you're up early anyway.
Yes.
But sitting with us. So when does the home buying and selling season typically begin? Are we jumping into it now?
We are. There's nothing typical about this year or last year. Normally, things start to pick up about May, and we'll stay extremely busy through the summer. Starts to slow down a little bit in September. We find that a lot of people are not really looking to move in September. They want to get their kids ready for school, so they want to make sure that they have that all set before September. So usually May through August is the busiest time, and that's when it starts to pick up, and we're seeing that right now.
I keep hearing these stories about houses that are selling before they even officially go for sale.
Yes.
I know some of that's anecdotal, but is it as hot as we hear out there now?
It is. It's a very strange market. I've been doing this 39 years. Every year somebody will say to me, well, what do you think? And I say, I'll tell you when it's over, because you just can't predict. It is that hot. It is. There's a lot of properties that are coming on the market that sell for well over the asking price. There's some that as soon as the sign goes in the front yard, there's people lined up at the door. And a lot of that, what we're seeing is some people are looking at buying their second homes, so they're not bringing anything to the market. So they're buying a home, but they're not putting anything up for sale. So that means that the inventory is going quickly, but it's not being replaced. And then we're also seeing that a lot of people that maybe lost their homes to foreclosure during the downtrend we had about 10 years ago are now ready to come back. Mm-hmm. And so they want to buy something, but they have nothing to put on the market. So again, you're seeing the inventory go quickly, but there's nothing to replace it.
And you hear buyer's market, seller's market, things are up, things are down. We want to talk about this year, but how did we do overall last year in the residential real estate market? Was it a good year? Obviously, everything is good after 2008, 2009.
Yes, that's very accurate. Last year, sales in Metro Detroit, we had just under 60,000 residential sales, 34 days on market. That's key. 34 days on market is probably the lowest I've seen in my career.
Yeah, back in the bad days, I mean, these houses were up for 90 days. I had a house up for almost a year at one point.
Not unusual.
Brutal.
Not unusual at all. And again, prices are coming up. We're seeing the overall median price last year in Metro Detroit, $171,000. Oakland County did very well, about 21,000 sales last year, 33 days on market with a median price of $232,000. So we're seeing days on market continue to come down or stay steady at about 30, which again is very unusual. We're seeing the median prices continue to rise. Now we really don't want to see them continue to rise like they did back in 2005 and 2006, because that's kind of what got us into that mess in the first place.
Kind of a false positive.
Right. And so we're hoping that things will steady off, and kind of smooth out here pretty soon, but it's not looking that way.
So this year we're starting off pretty well.
We are. One of the things that we're seeing a lot of, Don, is that people are seeing the market the way it is, so they're thinking that they can stick the sign in their front yard themselves and sell it, and they probably can. But when you list it with a realtor, you have so many eyes on that property. Just in RealComp alone, you'll have over 20,000 realtors that will see that property, and all their clients and their clients' families and so forth. So the benefit to having that property listed through the MLS is beyond words.
Aren't there statistics too? You list with a real estate broker the translation and what you're eventually going to make. I mean, everyone balks about the 3%, 6% fee that you may have to pay the realtor, but there's statistics that show you're making well beyond that typically.
First, let me say that all commissions are negotiable.
Right.
So when you go into this, if you're thinking that that's something you want to talk about, then definitely sit down with your realtor. All of that is negotiable up front. The worth of having all of the eyeballs you can have on that property, you may say, well, I got $10,000 over my asking price. Well, you may have received $20,000 or $25,000 over asking price by the time you have so many people look at it that are ready, willing, and able buyers. Most of our realtor customers tell us they have buyers lined up just waiting for these properties to come on the market. So the benefit with listing with a realtor and getting it in the MLS Plus, there are some of these third-party portals that are so popular that you can't get your property on there unless you list it with a realtor. So if you want to look at Realtor.com to see what's available, you need to list your property with a realtor to get that on Realtor.com to make that national site.
Right.
Karen wanted to ask about something I heard on the radio about 10 years ago, and I'll never forget it because it shook me. It was a national analyst.
You held on to that information for a long time.
Well, I think about it.
Especially if it shook him.
He's still shaking from time to time. A national analyst said, and this was in the depths of the recession that we felt here like nowhere else.
Yes.
Don't think of your home anymore as an investment. Just think of it as a place to live. And I just that was such a paradigm change. Sounds like we're back in the days where a home can be an investment now. And what does that do psychologically for an economy and for a region?
Makes me feel better, let me tell you.
Me too.
Just buying a house.
Me too. That I don't like to dwell on the 10 years ago because that was a horrible time for our customers and everybody around us. But it is an investment now. Again, you're seeing that because there are people that are buying a second or a third home as an investment that aren't necessarily bringing anything on the market. So I just think that it gives the economy the needed boost that we need. It just needs to not be a false boost. It needs to be a consistent boost. And so we don't want to go back to where we were.
And do you think it's consistent across the region? You talked about county by county, but it feels like from what you're saying that almost no matter where you live, you have a chance at this type of experience that we used to know in home buying and selling.
Including in Detroit.
Right.
The city of Detroit.
Oh, the city of Detroit has done amazingly well. We looked at some stats over last year. The increase that we're showing in the median sale prices in the city of Detroit, it has gone up substantially this time over last year. And as far as the sales that are climbing, we're seeing that all over the country. I talk to my peers that work at MLSs all over the United States, and they're all saying the same thing. Inventory is low. The whole country seems to be experiencing that. So we're not unusual. And so I think that it's a trend that is traveled all over the United States.
It's fantastic. We're talking to Karen Cage, the CEO of RealComp, the Realtor Multiple Listing Service, and talking about residential real estate. Interesting time here in and around Detroit. Don Tanner, Matt Friedman in for the Nolan Finley Show. Andre Ash sitting in as well. And call us up. Let us know what you're thinking and questions you have related to residential real estate. And the like, 313-778-7600. That's 313-778-7600. What are some trends that you're seeing right now that our listeners might find of interest? Obviously, median sales prices continue to rise. Days on the market continue to drop. Inventory levels are still
all-time low.
All-time low.
All-time low.
Right.
Again, in the 39 years. I'm about to start number 40. It's the lowest that I've ever seen it.
And why is it? At one time, I know it was people were underwater at one time. They wanted their values to come back up. But what are some of the factors there?
Well, again, I think it's the people that are buying that aren't selling.
Yeah.
They're
Right,
scooping up what's available. People that waited until they thought that the real estate would be a good investment for them, and now they're seeing that, but they didn't have anything to sell. So they're coming to market and standing in line, waiting to knock on your door and make that offer.
Maybe some younger buyers, too, who've outgrown the apartment or
Absolutely.
have been renting and trying to save some money. Maybe they're ready for a house now. It seems like that's starting to come into play, too.
One of the things that we're hearing about the millennials that are now buying is it used to be their first home was that starter home. And so they would buy maybe something a little smaller, and then they would build their way up to something bigger. But that trend has seemed to change quite a bit. And now they're saying that first-time home they buy is a home that they're going to stay in for a while. So the level of what they're buying, that starter home and that starter home price, that's been boosted up. So there's a range of properties that are the ones that go the quickest. And that's partially because of people that are now looking at buying that instead of coming in on the lower end of a starter home.
What are we watching, particularly in the city of Detroit, and as it rebounds as well? I mean, we know the housing market went for a bit of a tumble 10 years ago, but things are starting to be on the come up. But particularly for the city of Detroit, as we watch this comeback and the values and people fixing up properties and trying. The mayor has an initiative to fix up these properties and get people these home loans to be able to move families into them. But the city is it's a bit of 50-50, if you will. I mean, we have some areas that are still selling very low, while we have very stable communities, stable neighborhoods in the city of Detroit that are selling for very high. I mean, what's the inventory in this like in the city of Detroit when it comes to sales?
Well, the inventory in Detroit, the city of Detroit, it remains as low as it does anywhere else. However, the prices are coming up substantially. And I think there are still some areas where you're not going to see as much of an increase. But you're going to find the same type of line outside the door for these properties that come in the more affluent areas where people are just so anxious to purchase the older homes, the more, that architecture that they've really wanted. And those are selling so quickly that, the realtors in that area are saying they can't keep up with it. They can't, don't be surprised if you live there if they come and knock on your door and say thinking about selling, because they have so many people ready to buy. So there's still some areas where, of course, we could do better, but I think we're starting to see a really good trend there, and those areas are picking up as well.
And that's great news for the city of Detroit, because we haven't had that type of trend in especially even our more stable communities for a very long time. So that is great news for the city of Detroit that we're watching some home prices start to go up, and the availability of these homes is like the inventory is low as well.
So tough to find inventory, and we talked about the key of bringing in a realtor. How do you find the right realtor? You're in the marketplace, you want a home or you want to sell a home. To find the right realtor, how can you find the one that's right for you? What do you recommend?
Gone are the days of here's my market area, I don't go south of 10 Mile, or I don't go. When the internet came along, those boundaries were just gone.
Funny thing about that World Wide Web.
Yeah, I'm telling you, those and it's not a bad thing. Right. So it while it's still local, it certainly isn't as local as it used to be. So my advice is you need to interview them. You need to interview them just like you would anybody else coming to do a job for you. Find out what services they can provide for you, what their track record is, and pick the one you're the most comfortable with. Probably the best way to find one, ask your friends that have sold their home or bought a home. Find out who they worked with, that they worked well with, and who did a good job for them.
Good old word of mouth.
Absolutely. The best way you can pick somebody.
You have an event coming up. We've got a few minutes left here, and want to make sure that we reference that. That's coming up later this month, the Tools of the Trade.
Yes.
What is that event?
That event is, I believe it's our 15th year of hosting the Tools of the Trade. What we do, Don, is we bring in a lot of vendors that sell real estate-related products and services. We bring in some national speakers that can offer some good programs for our realtor customers. We invite all realtors, realtor-related assistants and so forth, people that are in the real estate industry to come and join us. The event is free for our realtor subscribers and any other real estate agents in the area. So they can come, they can meet with, right now we're looking at about 55 different vendors of products and services. We have an economist who comes in, and I can promise you that people who hear the word economist think, oh, no, I don't want to sit and listen to an economist.
I don't want to fall asleep.
Right. But this gentleman, he's just a joy to be around. He's funny, he's informative, he makes it a lot of fun to listen. And we just spend the day with our customers and let them spend the day with different vendors and learning. And it's an amazing event. It's going to be held at the 242 Commons out in Brighton this year on Grand River. It's on May 30th from 9 a.m., 8:30 a.m., thank you, until 3 in the afternoon.
That was a silent voice inside Karen's head. Actually, Fran Green with Real Comp is here with us.
And she just said till 4 in the afternoon. So certainly if you're in the business, or you maybe you're an assistant to somebody, come on out and spend the day. It won't cost you a penny.
And to find out more, someone should go to a website, a phone number. What's the best way to?
www.realcomp.com.
Fantastic.
Sounds good.
Karen Cage from Real Comp. thank you much for joining us. And,
Thank you.
It's going to be an interesting, another interesting season of home buying and selling, and RealComp will continue to keep a close watch on it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
This is the Nolan Finley Show on 910 AM Superstation. Matt Friedman, Don Tanner from Tanner Friedman, filling in for Nolan and Kelly this morning. In our next hour, we're going to talk about some fun stuff to do with your family. We're going to talk about the important issues of education in our community and more. That's all coming up in the next hour of the Nolan Finley Show on 910 AM Superstation, the future of radio.
The body, it is a work of art and a powerful ally in the fight against cancer. A new approach called immunotherapy empowers your body's natural immune system to fight cancer. This is Jimmy Smits, and I'm here with Stand Up to Cancer. Immunotherapy works by helping our immune system correctly identify and eradicate many types of cancer cells. Speak with your doctor and visit su2c.org/immunotherapy to learn more. Your body might just be your greatest hope.
Noon Saturday, that means it's Car Radio with Henry Payne. I'm Henry Payne, on with your first hour of radio. And then, Nora, you were coming into this week into this show. You went to the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, and you were driving in an autonomous car on the streets of Las Vegas.
I was. So that was really interesting. What they told me before I got in the car, that was my first self-driving ride, was this will not impress you. You know, it's supposed to ride the way that any other person would drive it.
Well, and what was interesting to me is that the autonomous car you took a ride in Las Vegas was a BMW.
It was.
But and I guess that's good for the for Aptiv, I think, who is showing the technology. But is that really good for BMW that their brand is associated with something that stops at every stoplight, only goes the speed limit?
910 AM Superstation. We are the future of radio. 910 AM Superstation. We got the topics.
Detroit also has the highest poverty rate among children in the nation. We just found out a couple months ago that lead levels in children under the age of 3 and under the age of 6 spiked 28%. Anytime children get lead poisoning, there's no safe level of lead. It affects their brain development. It makes it more difficult for them to make decisions that are, well, first of all, there's an actual correlation between lead poisoning and lower IQ. So it actually does damage to the brain.
Right, and so that's the reason why.
Yeah, and then you have also, because it's a developing part of the brain, the part of the brain it affects, you have problems with impulse control, which with a lack of impulse control, and you have lower IQ as a result of it. I mean, you are destroying kids.
That's a double negative.
Feeding into that, you know, the whole mass incarceration movement.
910 AM Superstation. We are the future of radio.
3, 2, 1.
You're listening to 910 AM Superstation. The future of radio. You're listening to 910 AM Superstation.
The best in the city.
The future of radio. We're the hottest station in town. Whatever you need, it's right here on 910 AM Superstation. The most powerful voices in the urban community. WFDF Farmington Hills, Detroit. 910 AM Superstation, a division of Adele Media.
Eight o'clock, the time right now. I'm Andre Ash with a look at the latest news headline at the top of the hour. President Trump reportedly wants options for reducing the number of U.S. troops in South Korea. Trump's request to the Defense Department comes just before his expected meeting with Kim Jong-un, the North Korean leader. The U.S. has about 28,000 troops in South Korea, but if peace talks continue between North and South Korea, there could be less need for a U.S. presence in the region. Also making news this morning, federal authorities had been keeping tabs on Michael Cohen's phone call to what's known as a PIN register. That means they could log incoming and outgoing calls for a specific phone line. They could not, however, listen to or record conversations, according to recent reports. Shay?
Shane Orling with a look at sports headlines. The NBA playoffs continued along last night as LeBron James unleashed a monster performance in Toronto against the Raptors. LeBron dropped 43 points and 14 assists in the Cavs' 128-110 win as the Cavs took a 2-0 series lead. The Celtics also took a 2-0 lead in their series against the 76ers. After trailing by 22 points, the Celtics shot the lights out to win the game 108-103. The NBA playoffs continue tonight with the Warriors taking on the Pelicans in New Orleans and the Rockets taking on the Jazz in Salt Lake City. The Tigers lost their series opener against the Royals yesterday afternoon, giving up 3 home runs in the contest. The series resumes tonight at 8:15 with Francisco Liriano on the mound for the Tigers. Andre?
All right, let's get to the roads. We're watching an accident blocking 2 lanes in Oakland along I-75 southbound just before 12 Mile Road. There's stop-and-go traffic backed up to Rochester, causing about a 10-minute delay. We're also watching that earlier accident that we were telling you about in Detroit along 94 eastbound before Conner that is now clear. There's still stop-and-go traffic backed up to Shane Street. Currently, it's 67 degrees in the city of Detroit. Mostly cloudy skies. A chance of showers and thunderstorms for the early afternoon, and then the sun returns to the high. Today is 70 degrees. You're listening to 910 a.m., the voice of Detroit. The second hour of the Nolan Finley Show continues right now.
We're having a whole lot of fun here on 910 a.m. Superstation this morning.
So says the baseline.
Matt Friedman, Don Tanner from Tanner Friedman, and Andre Ash is here too. It's the Nolan Finley Show on 910 a.m. Superstation. It's Friday morning, starting to feel like summertime is upon us. And this is actually the last Friday morning for quite a while where you can't just wake up and say, you know what, the weather's great. Let's take the family out to a ball game and have a lot of fun over on the east side.
Absolutely.
We're talking about the USPBL, United Shore Professional Baseball League. And when this started a couple years ago and we heard Utica, that sounded far away.
It did.
But we've been a bunch of times. It's right off M59. It's a piece of cake and a lot of fun.
Close to M53. It's a great time. And you have to say, are you ready for some baseball? And we have a couple of the leaders of the United Shore Professional Baseball League, or the USPBL, on the line with us this morning. Dana Schmidt, who's the Chief Operating Officer, and also Justin Orendorf, the Head of Baseball Operations. Guys, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Good morning.
Good morning. What you if you're live streaming today and watching us on Facebook Live, our listeners, you can see that I'm wearing a Westside Woolly Mammoths jersey. That looks a bit like the Flintstones. And
I'm wearing the Tanner Friedman uniform.
He's wearing the Tanner Friedman uniform.
So we're representing all the important teams here.
It is. But you guys have an opening day a week from today. I want to talk about that. But first of all, if for maybe the one or two that still haven't been out to your ballpark, the beautiful Jimmy John's Field out in Utica, what is the United Shore Professional Baseball League?
Well, Don, this is Dana. So we are a developmental league for Major League Baseball. So the goal of our league is to find those players that just barely didn't get drafted, really good players, but used to be that the Major League Baseball draft was, around 100 rounds. Now it's between 30 and 40. So there's a ton of players that don't get drafted anymore, but they still might be good enough to make it to the big show. So our goal is to find those players, help recruit the best ones, which Justin, that's his job, and then to help develop them to the point where they can try to make it to the big leagues. And so this was our CEO's concept, to create our own league that was a developmental league. And this is something we kind of learned from owning an affiliated minor league team in Fort Wayne, Indiana for 8 years, and seeing how many first of all, the magic of minor league baseball, but how many players were there that even at an affiliated level, maybe, only less than 10% had a chance to really make it, but then there were a lot of guys that didn't get drafted. So we really wanted to focus on developing players. We have 4 teams that compete in this league right now: the Utica Unicorns, the Eastside Diamond Hoppers, the Birmingham Boonville Beavers, and then you mentioned the Westside Woolly Mammoths was the 4th team we added last year. They all play out of Jimmy John's Field, so it's kind of a unique setting, although we are working on expansion plans to expand the league. But right now we've had tremendous success, and it's, in addition to great baseball, it's a really affordable family entertainment option.
I mean, you're getting in. What are the price points there? If you want to sit out on the lawn, and it is guys, if you haven't seen this ballpark, about a $15 million beautiful ballpark that Andy Appleby and company built. What are the ticket ranges for people interested in coming out?
So super affordable. You can sit on the lawn for just $6. And then in our grandstand, the most we start at $12 in the grandstand at the top of the seating bowl, which is only 13 rows. So we're not talking about, every seat's a great seat at Jimmy John's Field. But we do have premium seats. So we have our front row club. That's a little pricier. And actually this year we'll have in-seat service to the front row. So they'll be able to place their order and have a server bring them their food. And then we have a platinum club that's also a padded seat, and then we go up from there. But $12 is in the grandstand a pretty affordable ticket price, and on top of that, our concessions and everything that we offer at the ballpark is all priced to be affordable for a family night out.
Oh, and by the way, parking is free.
That's correct. Free parking.
Which is nice.
And there's always a home game. Because the whole league plays in one spot. It's great.
Yeah.
Moving on to the baseball a little bit, Justin Orndorff is with us, head of baseball operations. And, Justin, you've got the bona fides. You played professional baseball. Tell us a little bit about what the talent level is going to be like out at Jimmy John's Field this season.
I think what you're going to see this year in 2018 is a much more athletic, faster, stronger player, really 1 through 20 on our rosters. And we did that by design this year because one of our goals heading into year 3 is to really evaluate, and Dana did a great job of discussing the type of player that we're really looking for. But this year, we wanted to say, okay, let's objectively look at, the athletic measurements of the type of athletes that are walking through the doors. And let's also look at who has the potential to throw harder, run faster, or hit it farther. And so we have to rely on our development process to be able to take those guys from, point A to B and get them, ready for, Major League Baseball. And I think that we're doing a great job at that. And I think as we, get prepared, we're in the midst of our final few days of spring training right now. And I'm really excited about the players we have in camp and the rosters that we'll start the year with. And for us, it starts with, as soon as the season's over, our recruitment process, so to speak, is one by which we allow players to contact us. We allow players to submit video. We have conversations with players, recommendation on players, and they can submit a form online. They can submit all their information so we can kind of build a database of players and a profile for that player. And they kind of get put into our system. But really, we want our baseball staff to be able to see a player, to run them through our formal evaluation so we can really say objectively, here's where this player grades out. So we do that in a variety of ways, and we've had our managers go out to what's called the California Winter League in Palm Springs, which goes from into January into February. It's where, Dana mentioned the player that's 22 to 23, right out of college. He's trying to find a job, and it's a way where they can kind of showcase their talents and skills to try to get into professional baseball. So we've been there a little bit the last couple years, and we just had our big open tryout where we bring everybody in from across the nation and evaluate them. And then, really our big one for the USBL, I think on an annual basis, is going to be the senior showcase, which is going to happen right after the Major League Baseball draft, where those players who didn't get drafted, who were expected to get drafted, we invite them out to Jimmy John's Field, and we give them that objective evaluation, and that's where we would look to each year find that young player that can have value to our league.
Justin, you've proven that you and your team has a real eye for talent. You've had so many guys who've done well here in Michigan in your league who have gone on to major league systems. What are some of the alumni up to now that major leagues and their affiliate teams have begun their season? Where do you have guys now, your alumni?
Well, I couldn't be more proud of, one of our first players that was ever signed was Evan Pachoda. And Evan is a guy who he throws an extreme amount of strikes. He's what you call the true pitcher. And he came into our league from Adana University, throwing 86, 88, and Within 7 weeks, he was around 88 to 91. The Pirates signed him, and he's a guy that just keeps pitching. He's currently in low A. I think the last time I checked, he had like 21 innings, a .9 ERA, 21 strikeouts, and like 2 or 3 walks. And last year, we had the Twins really signed quite a few of our players. They signed Tanner Keese, Randy Dobnak, Kevin Martin, and Taylor Jellikowski. And those guys in particular this year have all really, really flourished. Kevin Martin is a lefty reliever. He just got moved to high A with Taylor Jellikowski, who I think has secured a starting catching role in Fort Myers there in high A. Randy Dobnak's coming off a back-to-back shutout. So, for us as the development league, each year we have to prove that our product that we're developing is actually doing well and is successful, in affiliated baseball.
And people
so those guys,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said those guys are our representation of what we can do, so to speak.
And you guys do a great job. I mean, I've been out to the ballpark so many times. I'm fascinated with the system and how you evaluate these players and, getting them up into the 90s. And just about every night you've got pro scouts in the stand. So any perception that this is beer league or this is softball, this is quality baseball. And Justin and your team have a lot to do with that. You're listening to 910 AM Superstation. Don Tanner, Matt Friedman, and Andre Ash filling in on the Nolan Finley Show. And we're talking baseball in the United Shore Professional Baseball League. Entering Dana Schmidt, the Chief Operating Officer, your 3rd season. Opening day is next Friday. What are some of the new things this year? You guys are phenomenal about always doing something new with food and promotions. Talk about some of the fun stuff that's coming up.
Yeah, so a lot of new things, and yes, we are always trying to bring something new to the table. We have to continue to increase the entertainment experience. So Justin's handling the baseball side and making sure we have a great product on the field, and then if you've been to one of our games, you know that we have something going on between every inning, before the game, after the game. So this year, one of our biggest things is we actually are going to have a bat dog, a dog that's been in training for 14 months. He's coming next week, and he is going to pick up the bat. He takes water to the umpires. His name is JJ, the field general. And
can you train my dog to do those things, or just to listen for 1 minute?
Well, and I'm sure he's still basically a puppy, so I'm sure he's going to have a few things where he just doesn't do it quite like we want him, but he's doing great, and he's been going actually down to Fort Wayne to the ballpark down there and training here during the spring because their season started a month ago. So that's going to be a great new thing. He'll be at every game. We also put together for the first time dance crews, so we have the United Dance Crews that will be performing at every game. We had over 200 kids show up for auditions. So that is going to be fantastic. We actually are also going to have 10 games on ESPN3 this year, so kind of ramping up our profile. Super excited about that. And then in terms of other things that are happening inside the ballpark, on the food side, I'm very excited to say that we are going to be offering Dole Whip, which is usually you can only really get this at Disney resorts or in Hawaii. This is the most popular dessert offered at Disney resorts. So we will have Dole Whip. This is something I asked my team to go and find out how we could do this in August of last year, so they made it happen. So
how many volunteers did you have to go down and try that out? Everyone was willing. We'll go down. We'll try that out there.
Well, I can't wait myself. We have a new craft beer garden this year, so all of our craft beers will be located in that craft beer garden, their stands, which will be on the third base side. So we're really excited about that, and we focus a lot on Michigan-based companies. So we have Founders, Blake's, Midland Brewing, Sherwood, Brooks, which are both local craft brewers, and then we have New Belgium as well. We have a new stand called the Topped Fry Stand, so it's going to be all sorts of different French fries with different toppings. We are Mexican food this year. We have Hacienda has come in, so we'll have the Hacienda authentic Mexican foods that we'll be offering their products at our Mexican stand. As we have done since year one, we serve Dearborn hot dogs, which I think are the best hot dogs, and so it's a very high quality product. And we'll have a barista-style coffee stand this year. That was by request of a lot of our fans. So we'll have both hot and iced coffee. So those are all new things. And just tons of promotions. You know, we do a different promotion every single game to make it fun. So we have added some Wednesday games this year. So we'll have Winning Wednesdays, which there'll be different contests on their Wednesdays where people will win prizes. Thirsty Thursdays again. So we'll have $2 12-ounce beers. And so that'll be Bud and Bud Light. We'll have Fireworks Fridays. Every Friday we have fireworks. Live music Saturdays, so we'll have live bands on Saturday nights playing from our main stage. And then Sunday is called Sunday Fun Day, so that's really focused a lot on kids. So we have all sorts of characters that Fairy Tale Entertainment brings into the ballpark. So we've got really something going on, in addition to baseball, a different theme and promotion going on every single game.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
You know, Justin, this is Andre. I'm fascinated by the advice that you give and feature in your Tuesday tip of the day. And talk to me a little bit about that and the advice that you give to the players as you head into the first game of the season for on Friday, May 11th, as you face off against the defending champion, the Birmingham Bloomfield Beavers.
Now, are you speaking of the advice we just give the players overall about developing, or as they prepare for opening day?
Yeah, how you prepare for opening day, and the advice that you give to players overall as well.
Well, I mean, as we enter into opening day, I mean, I think the one thing that we wanted to establish this year is we brought back, you know, a really good mix of the returning players that were around last year, and just going into opening day, I mean, the Mammoths, the Beavers, I mean, you know, the key players that were involved in that last year, maybe with the absence of Randy Wynn, you know, those guys, they understand what is expected of, you know, players and how we go about our business in the USPBL, and you know, that's really going to translate into our new players. And you know, my job really is to communicate, you know, the mission of our league, and basically, on that second part of your question, is how we do it. You know, and I think that it all starts with understanding when you walk through the doors at the USPBL, you know, where you kind of grade out. And if we're not really good at telling you, you know, here's where you are, but you know what, here's what Major League Baseball wants. And, you know, they're telling us with the advent of all the statistics with this technology now, what type of player is commonly playing in Major League Baseball. And, you know, if you're an aspiring USPBL player or current USPBL player, you have to get to certain baseline measures to be in the conversation. You know, I think that, so we say, okay, if you're here and get into the conversation where I can help sell you and help market you, and the organization ends up signing you, then we have to basically say, okay, for the next 4 to 5 weeks, here's where those things that you got to start really, really focusing on, and here's how to do it. You know, so I think that that's kind of the conversation throughout the players, throughout the league. And just one thing to touch on, I mean, this year, you know, the league invested in technology called Flight Scope, which basically is a 3D ball tracking device, which shows us when a pitcher throws it, how fast it comes in, what's the spin, what's the shape. You can see the line, and when the hitter hits it, how far it goes, how hard it comes off the bat. And so players love it.
It's all
they can really see.
It's
what's
fascinating.
going on.
It's fascinating technology, and it's paid off with quality product on the field. United Shore Professional Baseball League. Dana, game time, or we're wrapping up, is next Friday, May 11th. What time, and where do you go for tickets?
So the game time is 7:05. The gates will open at 6 o'clock, and you can go to uspbl.com for tickets or call 248-601-2400.
Thank you for joining us. We're ready for some baseball, and you're listening to the Nolan Finley Show.
9:10 a.m. Superstation, the future of radio.
.821, the time right now. I'm Andre Ash, live from the Superstation Weather and Traffic Center. Currently at 67 degrees in the city of Detroit. And also, we're looking at a chance of showers and thunderstorms as we head into the afternoon hours, the early afternoon, a high today of 70 degrees. Off to the roads right now, we're watching that earlier accident that we were telling you about that is cleared along I-84 eastbound just before Connor Avenue. You're listening to the Nolan Finley Show. We're back in a moment.
Are you struggling to keep your water flowing? To learn about lower monthly payments, payment plans, and more, text Get Help to 313131. Apply now. Text Get Help to 313131 or go online right now.
Since 1996, I've helped thousands of injured victims throughout the United States of America. If you need help, call me, Attorney Carl Collins III. My number is 855-CAR-HIT-U.
The 910 AM radio app is now available on iTunes, Google Play, and the Amazon App Store. And guess what? It's free. Listen to all of your radio favorites on the go. It's quick, it's easy, and it's brand new just for you. The new 910 AM radio app. Download it today. 910 AM Superstation is the voice of the people. Don't believe me? Just listen.
I absolutely love this radio station. This station gets me through the work week.
And we don't just show love to the callers. We see the comments and the posts too.
I'm always on the go, so being able to watch all my favorite hosts on 910 AM mobile app is amazing.
So when you think of 910 AM Superstation, we want you to tune in, call in, and don't forget to find us on social media. 910 AM Superstation will be broadcasting live from the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix, presented by Lear, June 1st through 3rd. Come out and join us broadcasting live from the Gold Standard at the Meyer Fan Zone. And be sure to listen to both dual and Detroit IndyCar races, live June 2nd and 3rd. Brought to you by the IndyCar Radio Network, only on 910 AM Superstation, the official radio station of Grand Prix. Listen to 910 AM Superstation for a chance to win tickets to the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix, presented by Lear. Look no further than 910 AM Superstation.
3, 2, 1.
Let's go. 910 AM Superstation. We are the future of radio.
And a happy Friday morning. It's 8:24. 910 AM Superstation will be broadcasting live from the Chevrolet Grand Prix presented by Lear. June 1st through June 3rd. Come out and join us broadcasting live from the Gold Standard at the Meyer Fan Zone. Be sure to listen to the track results in real time, brought to you by the IndyCar Network, only on 9 a.m. Easy for me to say, as they say. 910 AM Superstation, the official radio station of Grand Prix. Listen to 910 AM Superstation for a chance to win tickets to the Chevrolet Grand Prix presented by Lear. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning. It's Matt Friedman, Don Tanner, in for Nolan Finley this morning here on 910 AM Superstation. Want to let you know about one more event, something that we're involved with at Tanner Friedman. We're really proud. The largest event in the country designed to provide families with free information about living with type 1 diabetes happens right here in Metro Detroit. Seems like everybody knows somebody who has type 1 diabetes in their family. It's the Type 1 Nation Summit, held on May 12th, a week from Sunday from 8:30 to 2. It's at Wayne County Community College District's campus in Belleville, so it's an easy drive from anywhere in Metro Detroit. A good friend of mine, Cynthia Ford, is the honorary chair this year. She and her family know firsthand what it's like to manage type 1 diabetes. Her son, Albert, was diagnosed at age 4. He's now in his 20s and doing great. It affects all walks of life, and so JDRF is bringing in experts from across the region, across the country, to talk to families about everything from what's new in research to how to help teenagers who have type 1. They're going to showcase inspiring people who have overcome type 1 to just do amazing things, like a professional snowboarder who lives an active life with the disease. Wow. Speakers all day long. And again, we know that either you have type 1 diabetes in your family or you know somebody who does. So we hope you let them know about May 12th and how it can be a helpful day for them. For more information, you can check out jdrf.org/Michigan East, jdrf.org/Michigan East for May 12th.
Next Saturday. Fantastic.
Yes, it is. For our next segment, Don and I try to think of all the great people we've been connected to in Metro Detroit. Today's actually an interesting day for Don and I. 20 years ago, we became coworkers, and we've been working together every day. I would say every weekday, but it's pretty much been every day.
It seems like only 19 years ago today. It's 20, really.
For 20 years. And one of the great people we've had the pleasure of being connected with is Dr. Antoine Garibaldi.
Absolutely.
He is the president of the University of Detroit Mercy. He has made as quick of an impact as I think we've seen anybody make in this city coming here from out of town not that long ago. And Dr. Garibaldi, thanks for being here with us on this day.
Well, thanks for inviting me on your anniversary day. 20 years is a long time.
We have dinner and wine planned later.
Okay.
No, we don't.
No, actually, we're going to events tonight.
Okay.
In the PR business, that's what we do at this time of the year.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here. We're going to talk about education. We're going to talk about Detroit. But first, we'll talk about the University of Detroit Mercy, of which you lead. And it sounds like it's a hot school right now. Kids want to be in Detroit for college. How's enrollment applications? It's the time of the year when you can kind of sit back and take a look at that. What's it look like right now?
Thanks very much, Matt, for having me. And I will tell you that this is always a tense time of the year because 17 and 18-year-olds are still trying to make up their minds about which college they're going to go to, so they're driving their parents crazy. Mm-hmm. Very fortunately, we are at a point we've got over 610 students who have already committed for 610 students for next year's freshman class. We are really working at, I said 600, 500, and we're working on a class of 600 students for this coming year. This past year, we had 550 students, which was a significant increase from our previous few years. We've had increases each of the last 3 years. Overall enrollment is 5,100 students. That's also an increase. And one of the things that we did this year is we implemented a tuition reset for this next year's freshman class. And that is something that is really our parents and prospective students have responded very, very well.
What a nice move, too. What a great move in this day and age.
Well, thanks. It's one of those moves that we felt was extremely important, certainly given the need. 1/3 of our students are first-generation college students. There's a lot of competition in the area. We had 5,700 applications this year, which is a 10 to 15% increase. And so students really are looking to come to the city of Detroit to go to school and to work and also to serve the community. So we've been very, very fortunate in that some of the marketing efforts that we have been doing, we have really made sure that students know about our academic programs. The majority of our students are commuters, about 85% of them, but we have room for about 900 students on campus. And we're very pleased that over 55% of our first-year students have been choosing to live on campus, which is a really big deal and makes them get involved in the fabric of the neighborhood as well as in the entire city.
Is that something you've seen change over in the past year, the past couple of years?
I would say probably the last 4 or 5 years. I've been here 7 years at the end of this month, and I have seen students respond to coming to the university because of the fact that they do want to get involved, and that's the kind of feedback that we get from parents. The parents say students want to come because they say Detroit is where the action is, and they want to be a part of the action and the revitalization and the renaissance of the city.
I think it's a big change. I think once upon a time, parents would have sent their kids to a school in an urban environment and said, come home right after class.
Right.
And now
Carpool
the students are saying, this is the experience I want. And with this tuition reset, I think what you've done is you've leveled with the parents and said, forget about the sticker price. This is how much it's really going to cost you. And you've allowed families to make an informed decision. Sounds like that's really paying off.
Well, it is. And we see that in the numbers of applications that we receive. We see them also in the type of applications. I should probably say that the tuition reset goes from $41,000 that we had last year to $28,000. And that is our number from 2008. So it makes a significant difference, a 32% decrease in the tuition. But in terms of actual real costs, we're now more able to compete with our major institutions, which are University of Michigan and Michigan State and also Wayne State to an extent. But by making those, by putting those numbers up there in front, parents can really decide exactly how much it's going to cost for them over the next 4 years. And that same reset occurred also for our freshmen this year, sophomores, juniors who are going to be into their next advanced years of study.
And it's really a different experience from those other schools. One of the things I've learned since getting to know you and getting to know the school a lot better is the smaller class size. It's such a different experience. And some kids need that, want that.
Absolutely. And I would say that one of the things that I've heard from many parents who've come to the university with their sons and daughters is that they want to know where is the academic support. I don't care how excellent a student is, both from their grade point average or from their ACT or SAT scores. Parents know that when a student goes to college, that they're in a totally different environment, and they need to have some kinds of programs where they can actually get to improve their their time management, ways to plan for classes, how to be able to juggle a schedule. Those are very essential skills for the students at the top of the ACT rung as well as for students in the middle.
You touched on something very important. I think the fact that not only making it more affordable for kids, but making the overall experience better, where they want to be there on campus, and you grow in so many ways there, working with your peers and being right there. You guys are very involved in the revitalization of the local neighborhoods there. Can you talk about that? Because that's a fascinating project.
Sure. Well, first of all, the university has an economic impact of over $340 million on the city of Detroit. And we have a document that is online, and it's the City and Community Impact document, which any of your listeners can go to our website and see that. All of our 7 colleges are extremely involved in the city of Detroit. Our students provide a lot of service, so do our faculty. But the neighborhood development work, which is now known as Live 6 Alliance, is co-founded by the university along with the Kresge Foundation. That is a neighborhood development project that really focuses in on the 6 Mile and Livernois corridor.
Mm-hmm. Which is looking great. If you haven't driven up Livernois, I recommend everybody get off the Lodge, drive up Livernois, go all the way to 8 Mile. It's looking really good.
Well, thank you. And it's becoming even more beautiful as springtime finally has arrived, because now we can go and see the medians in the middle of the street and to see the flowers and also see the trees. And a lot of good things are going to be happening this summer with the city's work in the revitalization of the Fitzgerald neighborhood. Also, there's the Civic Commons work, as well as a lot of great support from the Knight Foundation and the Kresge Foundation, and J.P. Morgan Chase has contributed some funds to that. But the Neighborhood Alliance, Live 6 Alliance, is really an economic development organization. It is in the process of getting its 501c3 designation. It is going to be a separate entity. I serve as the chair of the board now, and will probably continue while it is a 501c3. But we also have the vice president of the Kresge Foundation, Benjamin Kennedy, on our board, as well as Tasha Tabron from J.P. Morgan Chase. In our work, we have really grown in just 2 years. We now have a staff of 5, where we started with a staff of 1. And now that there are more individuals who are able to work in the Live 6 Alliance, we're able to provide assistance for residents. We're able to provide some opportunities also for individuals who are looking to perhaps invest in that area with some retail establishments. And then we're also doing some things with the community, like every other Saturday, a neighborhood market. And so it gives people from the neighborhood, some of whom who have shops, some of them who are just basically operating as small business owners now, but want to grow to a larger business, to sell some of their wares and to make more people in the neighborhood aware of it. So we're really very, very excited about it. There's going to be a lot of activity. There's going to be a lot of work. And saw the mayor on TV last night and just showcasing some of the neighborhoods and the Fitzgerald Park that is beginning to develop on Prairie and Grove. You'll really be able to see a place where people will be walking. The neighbors will be spending some time there. Kids will be playing.
How wonderful.
Yeah, so it's going to be really very, very exciting when it's all done.
Yeah, the mayor's office has made an initiative to support stable neighborhoods, and where the mayor's office has looked around the city and seen where can they make these 20-minute neighborhoods, if you will, destination spots where people can live and go out to, perhaps Livernois and shop, and make it these little easy walkable communities, and in places where there's also an established institution. And the University of Detroit Mercy is that. How important is it that the school is collaborating within the community and really making this entire area thrive?
Well, it's very important. I appreciate your saying that, because University of Detroit Mercy is 141 years old. Started in 1877 as University of Detroit. Mercy College started in 1941. The two institutions came together 28 years ago in 1990. That is what universities do. One of the most important things is for universities to really be integrated into the fabric of the neighborhood. Many people give the Jesuits and the Sisters of Mercy a lot of credit for not leaving the city of Detroit in 1967, when many other schools and many other businesses move out of the area. That has been a very, very stable part of the neighborhood. And I know that individuals whom I speak to, whether they're 55 years old or they're 90 years old, and we have many in those neighborhoods, they are very, very appreciative of that. So we're always looking for ways in which we can expand our efforts rather than just do what we are. So we are not an island to ourselves.
Yeah.
We are really very much an integral part of the neighborhood.
We're talking to Dr. Antoine Garibaldi, the president of the University of Detroit Mercy, and invite you to join in the conversation at 313-778-7600. That's 313-778-7600, 910 AM Superstation. Don Tanner, Matt Friedman, Andre Ash in guest hosting the Nolan Finley Show. At least the two of us are. Andre's here every day. And you can also watch us on Facebook Live and check us out there, too.
Before we go to a break, one question for you, Doctor. Your endowment is growing. You've got a capital campaign that you launched that's extremely successful. Funds are pouring in, it seems like, to the university. What does that mean for students?
Well, it means a lot for students because much of the funds have been dedicated to scholarships. And so we have a $100 million campaign underway. $84 million has been raised thus far. We've got a little less than 2 years to go on this campaign. It's extremely important. The doubling of the endowment from $26 million when I first came to almost $58 million now is extremely important, because we're really trying to create that bridge for the future. So to your point, Matt, almost 80 new endowed scholarships have been created just in the last 5 years of the program. We have received donations of $21 donations of more than $1 million from many of our alumni and friends. And I like the way you said pouring in. I wish it were that easy. There's been a lot of strong arming in order to get that. We are very fortunate to have had some very, very successful alumni, and just cannot say how appreciative we are that our alumni are responding in many, many ways. So this fundraising campaign is really going to largely support students. It's going to support faculty, and it's also going to support some of the facilities that we plan to build on the campus.
Wonderful. Well, it's an investment in education in Detroit, and when we come back, we're going to talk about education in Detroit. Dr. Antoine Garibaldi is, in addition to running the University of Detroit Mercy, one of the leading experts in the country on urban education. Such an important topic in Detroit right now. We're going to talk about that when we come back.
And take a caller.
Yes.
Etta, hold on.
It's the Nolan Finley Show on 910 AM Superstation, the future of radio.
8:40 the time right now. I'm Andre Ash, live from the Superstation Weather and Traffic Center. Currently it's 67 degrees in the city of Detroit. Mostly cloudy skies, a chance of some showers and thunderstorms as we head into the early afternoon. And high today is 70 degrees and a little bit of sunshine into that forecast as well. Off to the roads, we are watching that earlier accident that we were telling you about has now cleared along the eastbound lanes of I-94 just before Connor Avenue. There's still stop-and-go traffic as you go about 10 minutes towards Van Dyke Avenue. Currently, we're watching another accident. This is blocking 2 lanes in Oakland, I-75 southbound just before 12 Mile Road. There's stop-and-go traffic backed up to Rochester, causing about a 10-minute delay. You're listening to the Nolan Finley Show. We're back right here, right now on the Superstation.
All right, 8:41 Friday morning in Detroit, and that hard-fought week we're about wrapping it up. So that's a great thing. Don Tanner, Matt Friedman, Nolan Finley show, and talking our guest in this segment, Dr. Antoine Garibaldi, the president of the University of Detroit Mercy. And we have a couple calls we want to get to, and I want to make sure I have the name right. Is it Dieta or is Dieta? Good
Yes,
morning.
Dieta,
What's on
good
your
morning.
mind?
Good morning. I am Dieta Wilcoxon. I am a graduate of the University of Detroit, twice an alum, class of 78, and again, class of 80. Good morning, Dr. Garibaldi. How are you?
Good morning, Ms. Wilcox.
It's good to hear you on radio. I am so impressed with your leadership. I hung out with you and Dick Vitale, needless to say, during the Sweet 16. That was a fun time.
Oh, wow. You in a crowd of thousands.
Well, I was there when we were winning all of those games, and it was again fun hanging out with you and Dick Vitale. But I wanted to call this morning particularly to congratulate and commend you. It's evident beyond the university campus to see the entranceway that you've reconfigured on McNichols is, my God, it warms my heart. I live right down the street from the university, so I pass it any number of times every day, all day. And to see what you've done to transform the feeling and the sense of connectedness to the university district, golf course, Palmer Woods, Sherwood Forest is just magnificent. You're to be commended on that. And to reset tuition rates, I think, is a compliment to your leadership as well. I went to the university when we paid through the nose. So to be more engaging and to open up to people who are not as good as struggling as I was, I think is, again, a compliment to your leadership. I was going to send you a card to say all of these things, but I got the opportunity to say it on live radio, so I thought I'd say it on 910 AM Superstation.
Well, thank you very much. Very much appreciated. All of the things that you said really are part of the investments that we think are important for the university to provide. And as you talk about the new entrance on McNichols, one of the things that many people don't realize, and you would because you live in the neighborhood, is that our campus is open on a daily basis to many individuals from the community who walk our track, many people who use our library and other resources around the campus community. And that's part of what I was saying to Andre a little while ago, that is the role of a university. And so we're trying to do that in many ways and make it possible for many other young people to come and get an education.
And you do it so well. Dieta, thank you for the call. We have Esprit on the line at 910 AM Superstation with Dr. Antoine Garibaldi from University of Detroit Mercy. Good morning.
Good morning, and good morning, Dr. Garibaldi. If I mispronounce your name, I'm sorry. But I want to say that the University of Detroit has been a beacon light in terms of that community. And one of the things that historically the University of Detroit did was it had urban programs housed at the university for the summer. Take, for instance, the summer program. They had, this goes way, way back, the street program where kids from the community can come and practically go to summer school, but it was on their level of learning. And I was wondering, is the university, since you're dealing with an urban sort of mindset, are they going to have more programs such as that to strengthen the community?
Well, thank you very much for that. And Hard G is the last name, so just Garibaldi, as my wife likes to say, it's Gary with an I and Baldy with an I. I appreciate your comments, and it's right on time because we have a number of summer programs for young people. We are still the host of DAPSEP programs during the school year. So you'll see many individuals coming on Saturday mornings, dropping off grandchildren and their children, taking part in some of those classes that we have on campus. But during the summertime, we have some enrichment programs for young people in terms of English preparation. There's some in reading. If you go to our website, there is a link there. But more importantly, one of the things that we are doing this year and that we're really so excited about is we tried a couple of times to get an Upward Bound program. So last year, we were one of the fortunate recipients of the competitive Upward Bound program. And I say that because this coming summer, we will have students in those programs from Osborne High School and Frederick Douglass Academy for Young Men. Those were the two schools that we submitted our proposal to the Department of Education. It's a 5-year program. There are other universities in the area that have Upward Bound programs. But I really started out in Upward Bound programs my first summer out of college in Minnesota. My sister was the associate director of an Upward Bound program back at McAllister College when she was the counselor in the schools. Every place that I have been, from Gannon University, Howard University, Xavier University, had an Upward Bound program. And we now have our first Upward Bound program. It's funded at about $300,000 over 5 years. We are really looking forward to those 60 young men coming to our programs this summer. And Pamela Todd is the director of the program. So that is one program. But we have probably about 4 or 5 other programs that are on campus. And then our athletics program also provides lots of summer programs in terms of just preparations, whether it's basketball, soccer, and other sports. So, yes, it is an active campus during the summertime for sure.
Esprey, thanks for your call. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
And and speaking of sports and having a very active program, certainly the basketball season for the school just ended recently, and certainly we'll be remiss if we didn't mention our very late Cliff Russell, which
Absolutely.
was a very great partner, and the school again serves as an institution, but also we broadcasted those games here with the station, and Cliff Russell was a great part of that. So we'll miss him indeed, but certainly the basketball program continues, and we look forward to that partnership moving forward.
Well, that's right, and we look forward to it too. Cliff was just absolutely fantastic. His brother Greg is a graduate of the university. Over those 2 years that Cliff was doing the games, I mean, I told him I just would miss him, and he was as dedicated to the university as he was to his alma mater, Wayne State. So, yes, we do. And
we all tip our hats.
Absolutely.
Cliff also was an educator in Detroit for a time, a broadcast educator. And I want to talk a little bit about education. Dr. Garibaldi will be modest about this, but if you look at his peers and the university presidents around the state, we have a couple of doctors, MD doctors, and we have now a former governor who's the president of the university. Dr. Garibaldi is a professional educator, former teacher, former administrator at the street level, really, in cities. And your research, Dr. Garibaldi, has focused a lot on urban education, particularly of African-American males. In the city of Detroit now, I think everybody talks about, as they should, fix the schools. And Dr. Vitti was brought in to lead the public school district in its new way of being constituted, and it's been now almost a year. We could talk about this all morning, but just in a quick snapshot, where do you think we are versus where we need to be?
Well, I believe that we're moving in the right direction. And coincidentally, Matt, and you are not aware of this, that later on this afternoon I have a meeting with Superintendent Vitti. We have seen each other often during the year, and I said I wanted to wait until he had a good close to a year under his belt before we sat down and talked about
we have some breaking news here.
Yeah,
heard it here first.
Where we might be able to get together and to do a few more things together.
That's a lot of expertise in one room.
That is.
Yeah, well, thank you. You're very kind. You're very kind. Well, his experience in Jacksonville, as well as other places that he has been, as well as the education that he's received in urban education, and being from this area, I would think are all assets. He went in and he focused in on important items like working with parents and also making sure that individuals knew that their schools were safe and are being educated. I was the chairman of education program for 7 years at Xavier University in New Orleans. I continue to be very involved as an educational psychologist in this work. But my first job was at the U.S. Department of Education. Before it was the U.S. Department of Education, it was a part of HEW, and it was then called the Office of Education. That was 1977 to 1982, and we were the research agency. But I say that to say that in those years that I was there, I worked with so many Detroiters who came and often told me about what was going on in Detroit. Detroit was the premier urban school district in this country during a change of lots of change, integration, and lots of other serious issues. And past Superintendent Art Jefferson was the person who typically spoke at many of those. I think that Dr. Vitti is putting his goals all in the right place, so much so that even just a quick response of having an increased enrollment on the part of the schools, that more students are coming back. There's a need for teachers, which is really great also. And those kinds of things are extremely important to make sure that people know that the emphasis is being placed on the academics and that these are the kinds of things that people want when they are sending their sons and daughters to school. So I would like what the school board is doing also. There's clearly a collaborative relationship there between the superintendent. He has a number of people in some very significant places in terms of running a school district, and I expect that there's going to be an increased enrollment this coming year as well. He knows where the problems are, and I believe that he and his team are going to fix them. So I am very, very encouraged about his leadership, and we want to be a part of that in lots of different kinds of ways. For example, we, for years, have been providing a partnership with the schools for our School of Dentistry. And so we have our Titan Mobile that goes around and helps young people with taking care of their teeth and the like. These are the kinds of things that parents can't do on a regular basis, leave their work and go to a school. I could say the same things about our School of Nursing as well, too. So all of those programs, from health professions to business, our School of Architecture works along with schools, introducing students to what the field of architecture is like, and we're happy that many of our alumni are graduates of the Detroit Public Schools and can really go in and talk to those students about that.
One more thing we want to ask you about. You talk about the Titan Mobile bringing the university to the community.
Excuse me.
You're going to be bringing the community to the university at the end of September with a homecoming, 28th and 29th. What should the community know about that and get on the calendar?
Well, the community should know that we're going to be doing a lot of things right within the neighborhood. We want all of our alumni to come out. Probably half of our 87,000 alumni are from the state of Michigan, and a lot of them are right here from this area. So we really want them to come out. It's the last Friday and Saturday of the year. We have lots of activities, not just for the alumni, but we also have an opportunity to really showcase some of the things that the schools and colleges and the faculty and students and staff have been doing over the last few years in the community. So it's really a way to really get integrated in that. So we've got lots of games and lots of opportunities for people to come back and show their old pictures when they had a lot of hair on their head. And for those of us who are, who are
a little less gray.
Yeah, a little less gray. We can talk about those kinds of things too. But it really is a celebration of the university and our three campuses in Corktown, the dental school, and also the law school down on Jefferson Avenue, as well as the McNichols and Livernois location.
Oh, terrific. Fantastic. Great to have you here for two segments. We could do more because there's so much going on at the University of Detroit, Mercy, and in the city of Detroit. Dr. Antoine Garibaldi, as I mentioned, one of the great people who's been a part of our network in the 20 years that Don and I have been working together. Great to have you a part of things the last few years, and looking forward to seeing you on Mackinac Island in a few weeks.
Absolutely. I'll be there. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Andre, Matt, I think we've just about done it.
This was
this is a great show.
Fun morning. Some good radio here, we hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Any shout-outs we need to give? Maybe back to the Tanner Friedman team?
Thanks for the Tanner Friedman team for taking care of all the PR for the last 2 hours while we've been taking care of the radio.
Yeah.
Cool.
This is a great thanks, Dodie and Kevin Adele and all the rest. Don Tanner, Matt Friedman saying so long from the Nolan Finley Show, 910 a.m. Superstation. The future of radio. Have a great a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend. Thanks.
And I'll have a great weekend, too. It's my birthday, so...
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
We'll see if I come back Monday.
Now you tell us.
Have a good one.
Stay off social media.
This is Reverend Sharpton, and on the last Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton, we have got to not get weary in dealing with it. People say, oh, it's happening everywhere so much. Well, it happened everywhere in the 60s. We've got to let them know wherever an injustice is, we're going to be there to support, to fight for justice. That is my life's calling, and I wish others would do whatever they can do because that's where we are. You are not in position just to have a title or just to be a big shot. You're in position to effect in your county's justice and fairness and to make sure the economic contracts and the economic wherewithal to empower us with our businesses is there. Otherwise, who needs